Hey, David McGuffin here. Welcome to Travel Talk Tuesday. I am back home in my kitchen in Middleburg, Florida, and it is April the 19th, 2022. Oh, we've had an adventure the last 2 weeks over in Italy, and I'll share a little bit of that with you tonight. But my main focus is on the celebration we had just a couple of days ago. Easter celebrations in Europe and destinations where I have been traveling. Now, Europeans, especially those that profess the Catholic faith or the Christian faith, make a big deal of celebrating the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. And as you probably know, that's what we celebrate and we honor on Thursday preceding Easter, on Friday preceding Easter, Saturday preceding Easter, and then Easter Day as well. So without further ado, I'd like to begin sharing my screen, and we're going to talk first about the experience that I had some years ago in Paris at the cathedral, the Grand Cathedral there, Notre Dame, which is one of the most important cathedrals in all of Christendom. So let me get back here. So on in April 2013, I was there with the Ridgeview Band and Choir, and we happened to be there on what we in English know as Maundy Thursday, or the Sacred Thursday, the day of the Last Supper of Jesus Christ with his disciples. This is outside the Notre Dame Cathedral. Gosh, this thing was begun construction in the 700s. AD after Christ, and it is a huge, massive thing, but it took almost 1,000 years to complete. You can see there's many people wandering around there, and this is the Mass on celebrating the Last Supper. I'll let you see if you can understand any of it, because it's in English, French, and other languages as well.
And he said to the disciples, "Behold, your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home.
Jesus, seine Mutter und Johannes.
So they're reading part of the Passion of Christ, the story leading up to the Last Supper, and when the disciples broke bread with Jesus and then did not believe that he was really going away and were asking about, "Lord, is it I?" And of course, we know that he was betrayed as well. And so this is all celebrating that part and remembering that part of Jesus's life. Again, April of 2013, Easter weekend. Me being a musician and a singer, this was just amazing. I probably should not have been taking photos because it was a worship service. And you'll notice as we go further into this presentation tonight, there's less and less video because of that. But I was in shoulder crowded, so I bet there was
Dans une boisson vinaigrée, il l'a mis au bout d'un roseau et lui donnait à boire en disant, "Attendez, nous verrons bien si Élie vient de descendre de là." Et Jésus, poussant un grand cri, expira. Jesus dies on the cross. And at 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which is translated, my God, why have you forsaken me? Someone ran, soaked a sponge with wine, put it on a reed, and gave it to him to drink, saying, wait, let us see if Elijah comes to take him down. Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last.
And this is after this portion of the Mass. This is the final recessional portion of the Mass. I was going to say, I bet there was close to 4,000 people in that Notre Dame Cathedral. And we were back on Sunday as well, and it was just packed, even more so shoulder to shoulder. Let me stop just a second here. Little history lesson. I'm going to talk about the fire in just a few minutes, but always walking out of Notre Dame Cathedral, I always pause, walking out the door and look up to my right, and I see these statues of this, what looks like a king, 2 angels, and another guy with a head in his hand. Now, this guy is the patron saint of Paris. It's Saint Denis. And the story goes that Denis was the first missionary that arrived to spread the gospel of Christ to the what for the lack of a better term, the natives, the Parisi, the heathens there in the area that were indigenous to that region of Paris. And they didn't really like the lesson that Saint Denis was trying to preach to them and trying to tell them that the gods that they were worshiping were no good. There was only one true God. So very soon it was off with his head. And this was much earlier than the French Revolution. But so this was in like the 300s, the 400s after Christ. And so the miracle, Saint Denis, his head was chopped off, and he reached down and he picked up his head, and he began walking, headless, of course, across the Seine River, up the hill to what we know as Montmartre, the Mount of the Martyr. It's the big white church on the hill up called the Sacré-Cœur Church is there now, the Sacred Heart Church. And so that's the story. That's why that statue is right there on the door when you exit Notre Dame Cathedral. Saint Denis, the patron saint there of Paris. And looking in the other direction to the left is another thing that I always have to point out, and this is a very provocative and seductive carving of Adam and Eve being tempted by the serpent. And you can see Adam and Eve have already discovered that they had sinned and that they were naked, and it covered themselves up with fig leaves. And the serpent comes up here, depicted as a beautiful woman, and is laughing in their face. And that's right there as you're walking out that door. You look up right here, and you have to walk. You have to do it, and you have to walk around in order to see God creating Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve in the beautiful Garden of Eden, Eve picking the fruit, and here are being seduced by the serpent and picking the fruit. And then the next one around, you can barely see it, is them being cast out of the Garden of Eden. So it's kind of like a walk around this column, and you see the entire story of the creation there. Okay, so many of you recall just a few years ago, well, this is my band and choir group that was there that weekend and we're up on the Mount of the Martyrs. This is Notre Dame illuminated in the evening shadows and the evening spotlights. You notice the roof and the steeple is there. And these are some of my band kids right in front of the Moulin Rouge. Of course, we never go in the Moulin Rouge, but they love posing in front of the Moulin Rouge here in Paris. And this is that Sacred Heart, Sacré-Cœur Church that I was speaking of. And there I am finally Easter morning in front of Notre Dame Cathedral. So you guys all probably know the big news from April 15th, 2019. Notre Dame Cathedral caught on fire. I was in Scotland at the time, and just on the 23rd, a few days later, arrived in Paris. And you can see the photos that I took, no roof there. There's some scaffolding there where the steeple was, and the scaffolding was up there because they were refurbishing the roof and cleaning the top of the cathedral. Well, I think the story goes they finally discovered that there was maybe a cigarette butt or something left smoldering way, way high up into the roof line, and some rags caught on fire, and within minutes, the entire wooden roof was engulfed in flames, and the beams, which were much larger than we could ever reach around, that were there for over 1,200 years almost, just burnt up to a crisp and all fell inside the cathedral. So that was kind of a crazy thing because there's a whole story. I watched a documentary a week or so ago on flying on a flight on Delta that had what's been happening the last few years about the reconstruction of Notre Dame Cathedral. Even in late 2019, I was in Paris in the fall of 2019, and they had already manufactured what we would call LVL, or laminated plywood beams, to replace those huge timbers that were irreplaceable, that had burnt up, and we're beginning to install those as the main trusses and the roof rafters for the cathedral. So I'm interested to go back now that there's been quite a bit of time that the pandemic has eliminated tourism or anything around the cathedral area, but work went on. I'm interested to go back in a couple of weeks or so and see how things are going in Paris. And you can believe I will report to you on Travel Talk Tuesday. Now you can see here, Easter, April.
Hi, good morning and happy Easter. David McGuffin here from London. Looking forward to my worship experience here at St. Paul's Cathedral. St. Paul's was built in 1625 by Sir Christopher Wren, one of the tallest buildings in London, with a dome that resembles the one of the Capitol, 365 feet tall. Looking forward to attending the worship service here in just a few minutes. So I hope you enjoy this look around St. Paul's and London City.
I don't recall when the Capitol in the United States was built, but I would venture to say that it was in the 1800s. So a good 200 years after that. That dome looks very similar. I looked up a photo today of the U.S. Capitol dome. It has two tiers of columns, our Capitol does. Christopher Wren has about 9 churches that were built around the metropolitan area of London. This is inside. I took no video because it was a choral mass, and my seat was like on the 3rd row, and the people there were giving me evil eyes when I was even taking some photos like this. I cropped the lady behind me out of it. So this is after the mass is over with, but it was wonderful because it was a mass. I think I'll show a little bit of the program, the order of service as well, but a sung mass for the entire service. And then after the service, as in traditional Catholic, or not here Catholic here, but as in traditional Church of Ireland fashion, communion was given, and then that was the end of the service. So this is after the communion, when everybody is walking, processing out. This cathedral is packed out too, probably about 4,000 people as well. You know, now that I've delved into what I have, it's not so much as far as celebrating Easter and the days leading up to Easter, because I just wasn't focused on documenting that with video or photos. I was more into going there to worship and to hear the word, especially here in England, where I could actually understand the spoken word as well. Easter 2017, we were down in Sorrento, the southern part of Italy, below Naples, and I was on I had met a couple of ladies who had traveled with me in the past and had done a transatlantic cruise, and I picked them up in Rome, and we went down here, and we arrived on Easter Sunday in Sorrento. And this is our hotel there in Sorrento. I'll just talk through it, but Sorrento overlooks the Bay of Naples. And if the day is clear, you could see out there and see Mount Vesuvius in the background. It's a bit cloudy. This is looking south. If you could see where my head was, the Isle of Capri is beyond that as well. This is the Piazza Tasso. And this was on my hotel balcony. Everybody got a little Happy Easter, Buon Pasquale a gift for Easter. This is a cathedral there in Sorrento, and the bell tower of the cathedral. Of course, it was ringing like crazy there. Still in 2017, we went in and had a wonderful Easter lunch. My friend Ramona, Katie, and myself at this Antica Trattoria, the old restaurant. There's some pici pasta, ravioli. That's Ramona back there in the background, Ramona McGee, and Katie Goodwin there showing the bread. And this is a photo I took of all three of us. We were down in Sicily at that time. Just wanted to get all of them in there. Now, just last week, a couple of days ago, this is on Saturday, the day before Easter, inside the cathedral here. This is a depiction of the tomb is closed, and this inscription here, I translated it sort of in my head as I was doing it, but I Google translated it today. It's in Italian. It says, "From good fortunes, miraculously, we accept whatever happened, and we await confidently. God is with us in the evening and in the morning, and is sure to stay every new day in our lives." This cathedral is also known for finely inlaid wood depictions of the stages of the cross. And as a matter of fact, all over Orvieto, there are workshops where older gentlemen who've been doing this for generations have inlaid these woods and various kind of grains of woods, and making finely handcrafted works of art. Now, it was at this point in my original recording that my microphone quit, so you can see that I'm talking away up here in the corner, but you can't hear what I'm saying. So I'm overdubbing this again from my hotel room here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm at the Travel and Adventure Show. But here again, you can see how finely crafted these inlaid woods are. This is a close-up, and you can see where there are different grains of woods and pieces of woods that have been meticulously trimmed with razor blades and X-Acto knives and put one against the other. This was a chapel on the right-hand side. It's there all the time, but very appropriate for the Good Friday that I was there visiting this cathedral with the death of Christ hanging on the cross. Now, Orvieto is a bit unusual than any other place I've ever been, in that beginning on Good Friday at 3 o'clock in the morning, there are processions in the streets, And you see this is a depiction, one of the posters hanging on the church door promoting these processions that begin at 3 a.m. in the morning. And you see a lot of people dressed up in white hoods, and you'll also see a lot of people dressed up in black hoods. These groups are fraternal organizations that were developed, way back in the 1500s to assist the clergy with the duties of the church that weren't clerical duties. As the clergy faded out and became fewer and fewer, these confraternities or fraternal groups kind of took over some of these duties, such as this procession. And this procession depicts after Christ was crucified and taken down for the cross. It depicts the mother of Jesus, Mary, the mother of Jesus, wandering around trying to find where Jesus is. And the procession begins at one of the churches outside of town of Orvieto. I've been saying Orvieto, outside of the town of Sorrento. And it goes into town, and every church that it passes, they take the effigies of Christ and Mary into those churches, give a look around, and then looking for where Jesus is, because he has died, and he said he would come back, but he hasn't come back yet, and then continued on. So I found a YouTube recording of this, and let me see if I can play a little bit of it and give a little chat above it, kind of depicting what was going on. So this is in Sorrento, early hours of the morning, around 3 o'clock in the morning of Good Friday. So it's a huge procession. Most of the folks that live in Sorrento come out either to participate in the procession, or they come out to watch it. And you see, reverently, the crowd is standing there, no cheering, no nothing. So the drummers come through first, then there's a procession of local people, a band, a choir, of course the clergy, followed by the effigies of the dead Christ and Mary. Here are the clergy. Now, regrettably, this all caught us off guard because we were in Sorrento at this time, but yet we had arrived the day before on the Thursday, and kind of got acclimated to town, and then went to bed. And we were awakened in the early hours of the morning listening to these drummers and choirs and bands and everything, but we really didn't know what was going on at the time, so we had to do some research. Our hotel was high up on the hill overlooking Sorrento, so we were able to see from afar what was going on, and of course we could hear it very well. I'm moving on a little fast forward through this YouTube video because unless you're there, it's a lot very, very repetitive, and you can see the pace at which they're marching. It will take hours. So again, let me say that this is the confraternity who are in black robes and hoods.
There's also another confraternity who are in white robes and white hoods. Basically, they both are doing the same thing, but it's just two different fraternal groups. So you see the cross coming now, the ladder where Christ was taken down from the cross. Pretty good choir. All those kids know the words for sure. And as we fast forward a little bit through this, we'll come up to the closing of it, where here is the depiction of the body of Christ being carried from the cross to the tomb. And then following that, is Mary right there, wandering around from church to church in Sorrento, looking for the body of Christ. So I regret that I did not get to see this firsthand, but through the miracles of YouTube, someone did. I'm going to have to go back and try to make a weekend out of it in Sorrento and follow these processions and the whole ceremony up to the celebration of Christ's resurrection on Easter Sunday. We ended our time in Sorrento here with visiting a farm, having a dinner, seeing some of the animals and cheese production. 5 a.m. we got up and took the train back to Rome. Now, let me rewind to the island of Procida last Tuesday. So we arrived on the island of Procida, and we thought it was a beautiful little island to go around. It's only 3 or 4 miles wide and 3 or 4 miles long. We sat down, had a great lunch, spaghetti and clams and some ravioli, and we rented there were 7 of us out of the 8 rented scooters. There's Charlotte on this scooter. We had a great time for the first 4 or 5 hours of riding around, taking photos. That's Charlotte and I looking over the one little town.
Okay, we're in Procida.
On Procida. Here I am videoing my scooter ride.
Scooters. Yeah.
There's Phil behind me. He was a seasoned cycle rider. You hear Siri giving me directions. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, Charlotte was making a turn right here, turned too wide, and ran smack dab into a car. Thrown off the scooter was totaled. Thankfully, her helmet protected her mostly with no problems, but she did get bruised and banged up, and that kind of put a damper on the rest of the day, because everybody saw her go right over the handlebars of the scooter and onto the ground. Thankfully, nobody in the car was hurt. Nobody except for Charlotte was hurt, but she was pretty banged up. So we got her out of the road, A lot of locals came around to help and moved the scooter out of the way. The young lady who was driving the car, I assisted her and got her off the road, and we sorted out everything. But then everybody was kind of bummed out that was in my group, so everybody took the scooters on back to the rental place that we had them. By the way, it was a great deal. It was a €30 for the entire day to rent these scooters. And like I said, for the first few hours, we had a great time touring the island of Procida. But because of that event, I'm not going to really recommend renting scooters again, especially as a whole group activity. So when you go again to Procida, then you can make sure that you decide whether you want to do that or not. Okay, so she was banged up. We got on the train the Saturday morning preceding Easter. This is the Italio high-speed train going 300 kilometers per hour. That's 172 miles per hour in 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we were back in Rome. Now, Charlotte was still she was beat up, and she still is beat up. But we decided we're not going to tour around Rome. We had one more night left there. The group had already departed, and so I booked a room at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, which is a Hilton property, and I am a Diamond member with Hilton Hotels. And we arrived there, and it was high on a hill above the city of Rome, overlooking the skyline. And the young lady at the desk, Anna, gave us a wonderful room upgrade to a suite. And here you see the living area of the suite. My desk back there in the background, looking out over the seascape or the cityscape of Rome. This is the bedroom area, and the total marble bathroom. So it was the most lavish room that we have ever had in our lives. Needless to say, we weren't going anywhere anyway because Charlotte being banged up, but we didn't feel like we needed to either because of the wonderful environment that we're in. This hotel was built in 1962, I believe, is when it was opened. So some of the things are a bit dated, but it is lavish, old school, old style. This double helix staircase going down to the restaurant area and out to the pool. This is the pool. You can see the umbrella pines there and the city of Rome in the background. This is the front of the hotel with the olive trees, lush green grass. Not a bit of trash anywhere to be found. The Waldorf Astoria Hotel, Roma Cavalieri. It was a great experience. Now, like I said, Charlotte didn't go anywhere because she was bruised, banged up. So she laid in the bed or sat around on the couch most of the day. I was a bit antsy because I was able to catch up and do a lot of desk work, but I also went down into the neighborhood here, and it definitely is a lived-in Roman neighborhood. And I walked down a whole bunch of stairs to a local place that sold hamburgers. I think it was called Mama's Best Burgers or something like that. And so I purchased some hamburgers, and then I looked at my taxi app and was able to hail a taxi to come pick me up and take me back up the hill. And for €27, we were able to have a wonderful lunch right there on our balcony with Diet Cokes and hamburgers and French fries, an American meal, believe it or not. Tasted great, overlooking the city of Rome. Here's where I walked down into the neighborhood. Beautiful wisteria in bloom right there. As I mentioned, there's our hamburger, French fries, and Diet Cokes, or Coke Zero there, I believe, and us on the balcony overlooking that.
Hey, David McGuffin here. I am in Rome for my last night on this tour that we have just completed with the Amalfian Islands.
And Charlotte had a little incident with a scooter in a car, and it's kind of banged up a little bit, so we decided to spring for just a nice hotel room here in Rome, way high up on the hill, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. And it's the Waldorf Astoria, Rome Cavalieri. And boy, it is a wonderful room. We have this living area space here. They gave us an upgraded room because of my diamond status with Hilton Honors. And so here's my desk working, and my view of the overlooking Rome from my balcony. Pretty cool experience today. This is the view from our balcony of the Waldorf Astoria Roma Cavalieri Hotel, high on the hill above Rome. The gardens are beautiful down here. Kids are playing amongst the lions. There's a wonderful little pool down here in this area. You can see the observatory up on the hill in the background. But panning back to central Rome, you can see, maybe if I zoom in a tad, you can see the monument to the first king, Vittorio Emanuele. In this direction, the Colosseum is here. And this whole green area over here in this direction is the huge gardens of the Borghese family. The weather's wonderful today, bright, clear sunshine, cool in the shade, nice and toasty in the sunshine. We'll be flying back home tomorrow and be in Middleburg the next day. Well, that afternoon we took our COVID-19 lab test provided by eMeds and a telehealth. Charlotte and I got a photo there. We went out to dinner that night at the hotel restaurant. I had some steak tartare. Charlotte had some tuna tartare. She was not feeling very good at all, and the chair was very uncomfortable. She had some the pasta cacio e pepe, and I had a peppered steak. Charlotte actually got up and went on back to the room, and this was what was waiting for me from the balcony as I went off to bed. The next morning we took a taxi to the airport. Thankfully, because of our status with Delta Airlines, we were able to get upgraded to a first class seat, and we flew home. So that's it for Travel Talk Tuesday tonight. We'll catch you next week, where my topic will be Orvieto, located in the Umbrian hillside.